The EU's facing up to rising nationalism, anti-immigrant sentiment, and what's seen as a weakening of rule of law amongst Eastern European members. But Poland's Prime Minister stands defiant.
Proszę nas nie pouczać w takich sprawach. My doskonale wiemy, jak zarządzać naszymi instytucjami.
And divisions run deeper over rights. Poland is a conservative country influenced by the Catholic Church. Rare then to find a place like this, Gdansk. The Baltic port city is fighting back against the establishment and is widely seen as a liberal enclave. Pawel Adamowicz, the city's mayor for more than 20 years, is credited for much of this. He took a more liberal approach at City Hall, overseeing policies recognising everyone, migrants and the LGBT community among them. It won him supporters, but also made him a figure of hate. In January, he was stabbed at a charity event in Gdansk and later died. I'm spending a week here in the city of Gdansk because I really want to try and scratch beneath the surface of the city to understand how it's got to where it is today. And also, I want to know a bit more about Pawel Adamowicz. What kind of man really was he? And how was he able to achieve so much here? Also, since his killing, of course, I want to find out whether his legacy is continuing and whether Gdansk is very much going in the same direction. I'm going to meet Pawel's wife, Magdalena, at the European Solidarity Centre here in Gdansk. It's a city landmark that was overseen by Pawel. It commemorates the Solidarity movement, which helped to end communism in Europe. Magdalena, who has 2 daughters, tells me it was her husband's personality that made the difference.
He was a very open person. His trademark was a smile. He was open to the people, and people very often came to him and speak to him on the street. And he always stopped and have a time for the people. Always listened to them and was trying to help them as far as he could.
Pawel started out as a conservative, but became more liberal in his later years of office.
He learned his whole life. He matured. And he evaluated. He found that the many groups in Poland are extremely discriminated, and he don't agree with that. So that's the reason he wanted to support the minority groups and the groups who, like migrants, like LGBT groups.
Magdalena's standing in next month's EU elections as an independent candidate, prompted, she tells me, by her husband's killing.
Now I feel that all his power came to me. In his funeral, the father shouted that we have to stop with the hate speech. I thought, okay, he speaks to me, who suffered so much. I have to fight for that, to fight with hate speech, hatred, fake news, half-truth, because it blow up the European integration, the European Union from inside.
Well, it was really interesting meeting Magdalena back there. I spent around half an hour having a chat with her in the centre, and from the outside she certainly seems like a very strong person. And she seems really determined to continue her husband's legacy, not only here in Gdansk, but to take that now to the heart of the European Union and in the European Parliament. It's estimated around 40,000 migrants live in Gdansk. Some have chosen to start their own companies. So this is your business?
Yes.
What have you got here then?
We have wholesale, we sell frozen meat, thank you. We have like here the freezer here. We have the frozen meat like you see here.
Palestinian Mohammed Ammar moved to Poland after visiting his cousin here. He now runs a food business, employing migrants from several countries, including Bangladesh, India and Nepal. But it's not all been plain sailing. When he applied to a village mayor to buy a house with his Polish girlfriend, he was refused, told in a letter that he posed a danger to the community.
We were really in shock and surprised So we went to the news, the media, and after that, actually, he changed his decision, so we were allowed to buy this house. But it took so longer time. So over 1 year we were waiting. But when I live in the place right now in this village, actually, people is very helpful, very nice.
So you're happy?
I am. Yes, I am happy.
Mohammed helps other migrants settle into the city. We're joining him at a support centre to be alongside one man who's just been told he's now illegal. He didn't want to appear on camera.
Hello. Hello. Please sit down. How can I help you?
Yulia Shavlovskaya's advising him, a migrant herself from Belarus. She's now helping others to navigate Poland's immigration rules and regulations.
Unfortunately, it is typical situation now because Polish system, Polish government is not prepared for immigrants here. He was in this procedure for one year, and after that he received the letter with the information that his case was cancelled. Gdansk is really open and a tolerant place for foreign people, and we have it, I think, in our blood, because when you live here and you can understand they live in peace, it's really good, and it's really better to build than destroy.
But if you have an anti-immigrant government, though, it's quite a difficult challenge.
Yes, quite different challenge, but I think people on the places, on different cities, the mayors of the other cities can understand because they live in these societies.
Of course, some take a more cautious approach to migration. I'm off now to meet a man who runs a chain of patisseries in and around Gdansk. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Damon. Nice to meet you. Grzegorz Polowski is Catholic, a supporter of the ruling Conservative Law and Justice Party. He tells me he wants migration to be kept in check.
I don't like the fact that in Germany and in Sweden, they opened the doors so widely and they started to accept people in an uncontrolled way. The same people who will then have an influence on the future of the country, because it's officially being said now that some European countries will become Muslim countries.
Grzegorz has supported a far-right group called All Polish Youth. It issued fake death certificates for 11 mayors in 2017, including Pawel Adamowicz, citing his cause of death as liberalism, multiculturalism and stupidity. How can you support a group like that and its tactics?
It was meant to be a message to symbolize the death of his opinions and politics, because they didn't like them. The message was very strong. And sometimes, to reach somebody, you need to use a strong message. But in fact, it was too strong. They apologized. If it had been up to me, I wouldn't have done it.
So this is a really interesting document. It's referred to here in Gdansk as a model for equal treatment, and it was signed up to by the City Hall here. Essentially, it basically covers everything about the community in Gdansk and rights, fundamentally. It talks about gender, age, ethnicity, nationality. But perhaps most interestingly in this document, it actually has a section on sexual orientation. That's not something in the national constitution. Jacek moved to Gdansk from a small town when he was a student. Those who knew he was gay back then, in the 1990s, told him life would be easier in a big city.
I've been living in Gdansk for 25 years, and I'm enjoying it here. In fact, this opinion about the city is everywhere. Among many gays and lesbians, the LGBT minority everywhere in this country. Therefore, many people come to Gdansk to live. But it doesn't mean that life here is good for every LGBT person, and I'm sure there are lots of improvements to be made.
Jacek joined Gdansk's first equality march in 2015. He tells me it was a day filled with fear and excitement.
When I went to the march, I was afraid that suddenly some people who hate us would come, would throw stones. It was a positive experience, and, on the other hand, a very eye-opening one.
The LGBT community is frustrated by a lack of national rights legislation. Jacek had hoped EU membership in 2004 would change things in Poland, but says nothing has moved on.
In Poland, there is no bill about partnerships, no bill about marriage equality. It's not a hate crime if someone hates LGBT people. There are no crimes motivated by homophobia in law, not to mention any laws about children raised in same-sex unions. It's all very far behind. We have a similar level of legislation as Russia does.
Mamy podobny poziom legislacji jak Rosja.
Will you be able to marry your boyfriend in the future, do you think?
For sure. I dream a lot about marrying my boyfriend, but we want to do it in Poland. Now, I think we're at a ridge, like we're walking onto a ridge of a mountain. We either fall to the undemocratic side, where human rights are not respected, where gay people are second-class citizens, people who do not deserve full rights, or society agrees and acknowledges rights of sexual minorities.
Jacek's a volunteer activist with the Tolerado Association and is taking me along to one of their workshops. It's Creative Night, painting banners and posters for the next Equality March happening in May. Dominic, who's bisexual, is among them.
I moved to Gdansk last year. I'm originally from Wrocław. I came here a week before the march, so it was a really cool greeting. And here, I haven't personally encountered any homophobia, but of course I've heard the stories.
My mother has known about my sexual orientation since I was 15, and she tolerated it. Never approved, but tolerated. About 3 years ago, she started to go to church frequently and became very religious. She doesn't accept me anymore. My grandma doesn't as well.
People in same-sex relationships are not respected by our state, and our government wishes we didn't exist. We have examples of very religious states, very Catholic states, those who changed their minds about LGBT rights, like what happened in Ireland or the UK. So it's doable. The question is whether it can be done in Poland. But if I didn't think it was possible, I wouldn't be here.
The church is a big shaper of public opinion. In March, an evangelical group published pictures of a priest leading the burning of books outside this church, including Harry Potter titles, seen by some as promoting sorcery. The pictures were later taken down. We were told that we couldn't have an interview with the priest. A statement has been put out on social media in the priest's name. He describes the book burnings, in his words, as unfortunate. And he said this wasn't directly against literature and culture as such. And he says if people felt like that was the case, then he would want to apologise. Not all priests take such a controversial approach to teaching the Word of God.
You search for the best means how to present your faith. And sometimes you simply do some simple mistakes. And that really, for me, and I'm quite sure that for all church in Poland, for 100%, that was a mistake.
We are fighting for our lives side by side.
The church stands firm in the face of calls for more rights. Thousands have taken to the streets to demand the liberalisation of Poland's abortion laws, some of the most restrictive in Europe. And when I asked about the prospect of same-sex partnerships, Pawel Kowalski wouldn't comment.
When it comes to the rights of people that people are calling and asking for, we as church are called to discern, because some of rights that they call for are really a message of God, a message of Holy Spirit that is calling to us to stand for, but some probably not.
So by discern, you mean you will choose what rights are right and what aren't right?
Not to choose. I mean, discern is something completely different. Discern means to listen, but then also to decide and speak with, and so on. So it means get involved in the society, get involved with people, and to have a way together towards the right and so on.
The push for more rights stretches to family and women too. I'm meeting Renata and her 10-month-old to find out what family life is like in Gdansk and Poland more generally. Renata's a teacher on maternity leave right now with little Łucja. She gets maternity pay and just under 120 euros per month for her daughter under a government scheme called 500+. Hi Renata.
Hello.
I'm Damon. It's been brought in to boost fertility rates, but has also sparked fears that it will discourage women going back to work. Renata would like a nursery place for her daughter instead.
When it comes to public nursery, she's on the list. She's 800th on the list right now. And we can't afford private nursery, so it's impossible now.
So in terms of women having children in Poland, and then also trying to get back to work, I mean, how difficult is it?
It is difficult because the money that we receive from the government doesn't solve the problem, because I would rather be given a place for her in the nursery than money, because I can earn money. I can arrange some private classes, or I can work more, but as long as I can't find anybody to take care of her, it's just not going to work.
In terms of women and women's rights across sort of work and in higher levels of authorities, people running the city, how well do you think women are represented in reality?
I think they're definitely underrepresented. I think there should be more women in more representative positions.
One of your favourite parks to come to with the little one?
It's pretty nice and a lot of greenery in the center.
So yeah, you like it here?
Yes.
Yeah. And this is your partner?
Yes. This is Michael.
Hi, Michael. Nice to meet you. I'm Damon.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So you've got a yoga lesson coming up?
Yeah, in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to start.
So how are you finding life with a family here in Gdansk? Is it pretty straightforward?
You could say so. For a year, not as getting money from the government. Later, I think it can be a bit tough to go back to work, and it's not that easy to decide on the child being 1 year old, being at the nursery house. So we'll have to think about it in about 2 months. Okay.
Okay, good.
And I need to.
Okay, you go to your yoga
Thank
class.
you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
It's clear mayors have a big role here in Poland in shaping city life, with many of the frustrations about national laws and regulations. Gdansk's future's now in the hands of former deputy to Pawel Adamowicz, lawyer Aleksandra Dulkiewicz, the first woman to take the mayor post. I wasn't able to meet her to find out about her plans, but I did chat to a deputy from City Hall.
It's a huge loss, Pawel Adamowicz. 20 years of what he did for the people of Gdansk, building the values of Gdansk on freedom, solidarity, openness and equality. All of that to make everybody feel good here. We will try to keep it running, all that remains of his legacy and all those social programs he created with the various people and NGOs. Because it's not only our challenge, not only his legacy, but it's about the everyday life of the people of Gdansk.